Brock Purdy is going to be out 2 to 5 weeks, except he practiced yesterday and he might play on Sunday, plus how the 49ers defensive line is rounding into form and why you should be very, very excited. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast, part of the Pro Football Insiders. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera alongside Johnny Dell from Johnny Dell Football Academy. This is what we've come to call the demonetization station, because this is where we break down film of the 49ers and the NFL takes all our money shortly thereafter. Johnny, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Like you said, is the demonetization station. The NFL, I'm a little irritated with y'all. Like, knock it off. We're just trying to bring the knowledge to the people. So, but they don't like content that's not theirs. So I guess that's what the status is.
Even when it's promoting their own product, but whatever, that's what they're going to do. But we're going to continue to do what we want to do. If you feel compelled to throw a super chat in the comments, we would greatly appreciate it. But that, of course, is up to you. We're certainly understand that times are tight and we're not expecting it. So before we get into the breakdown of the defense, which I just saw a number that came out surrounding Mykel Williams that just absolutely blew me away. We'll get to that in a minute, but we have to talk about Brock Purdy because I think, to everybody's surprise, he was back at practice yesterday in a limited fashion, but we didn't even think this was possible considering some people were saying he was going to be out for more than a month. So that was very surprising. John Lynch was a guest on KMBR earlier today and was asked about Brock Purdy. Here's what he said.
I can tell you that it was encouraging to see him practice. He was limited yesterday, means he got out there and he had some activity. I think everyone saw that. The key now is how does he respond to that? So we'll find that out here later today, see if he can get back out there. Mac is preparing and will be prepared, as will Adrian Martinez. And so we'll be ready to go. We'll make an organizational decision on where Brock's at and later in the week, but it's encouraging to see him out there and he's doing a heck of a job. We'll see where that goes as the week develops.
So, look, everyone wants to be very cautious with their quarterback. They don't want to say who's going to play, but I was very surprised to hear that, Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us were just automatically assuming that Brock was going to be shut down for a minimum of 2 weeks and that there was no chance he would even have pads on Sunday. And so the fact that he has some pads on does mean that this is much better than it could be. I mean, we have to put things in perspective. Joe Burrow is out until mid-December. And so it could have been much, much worse.
Right. Like, this is the best possible news we could have gotten. Whether he plays, whether he doesn't play, clearly it could have been much, much worse. That is not where we are. I mean, the fact that he finished the game, right, in the first place tells you clearly it wasn't to the level of Joe Burrow or other people. Not only did he finish the game, he was out on the field afterwards celebrating. He was at the podium. Usually if you're hurt, you don't speak to the media after the game. He was at the podium. So clearly it was not as severe as it could have been. We will wait and see what ends up happening. I'll ask you, though, Johnny, what would you do if I could cast a spell and make you Kyle Shanahan and or John Lynch, and it's your decision to play Brock Purdy this week or not? Are you starting 13 or are you starting 10?
Well, I think that question in the third week of September is a very different question than maybe the third week of November and where your team's at. When you're in the third week of September, you have to think about the other 14 games that are coming after this. You don't just think about this game. And yes, this is a big divisional matchup. And yes, this game really may matter near the end of this season, but you don't want to sacrifice 6 games that Brock could miss for one game. And so, if it's a point where, like, if we don't win this game, there's no point in playing for the rest of the year, then I think Brock plays. If this is a situation here where clearly we're 2-0, you're not throwing in the towel in any sort of fashion, but you're saying what is the worth or the cost risk benefit, right? That are you gaining the benefit of having Brock out there versus the risk of the other 14 games. And I just don't think it's there. Yes, you may not be able to avoid some of the rush like Brock Purdy is able to do against sometimes a very disruptive defensive front that Arizona has. And so Mac Jones is going to be maybe a little more susceptible to some of those sacks, but is that drop off really worth the risk that you're going to have here with Brock Purdy through the 14 games? And I just don't think it's there. So if it's me, it's Mac Jones.
You've got the game this Sunday. You've got another game against the Jaguars a week later. And then you, of course, have the Thursday night game against the Rams. So all that stuff you have to take into consideration. I expect it to be Mac Jones just because it seems like it was super fast for Purdy to come back. But we will see. It's up to the 49ers. They have to make the decision. I'm sure we will react completely rationally to whatever the 49ers decide, because that's really what we are known for as 49ers fans. So,
always
right. We can rest on that. But it's interesting. It's hopeful, at least, that this is even a topic of consideration. So that is a good sign. We will continue to wait and see. And of course, if anything happens, we'll let you know. Before we get to the film breakdown, I do want to give a shout out to Sleeper. We are so happy that Sleeper has joined as one of the sponsors of the pod this year. I am a huge fan of Sleeper just because of how easy it is to use. I started using it this year and I absolutely love it. It's very simple. You download the app. I have it up on the screen right now. You can see. Now, to be fully transparent, there aren't a lot of 49er picks up there at the moment because they don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be. But regardless of that, it's still easy. You don't have to necessarily choose the 49ers game. You don't even have to necessarily choose football. There's every sport, every stat in every sport you could possibly want. And it's very, very easy. You just pick on stats like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more for up to 1,000 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you can win big. Now, please use our promo code GSP, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. So that is key. Use our promo code GSP to get the $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. So make sure you check out Sleeper today. As I head over and I look, Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown. My arrow is pointing up on Christian McCaffrey, so I think I would take more than a half touchdown for Christian McCaffrey anytime. And I think, honestly, I might go Trey McBride. They want you to pick two different teams when you make your picks on Sleeper. So I think I would take Trey McBride anytime touchdown as well, although Fred Warner's really good. But I think Arizona will find a way either through a Kyler scramble or something like that to get Trey McBride in the end zone. But those would be my picks. You can see it's very easy. You make your picks, you pick your amount, and you're off and running. So thank you again to Sleeper. We appreciate it. And again, use our promo code GSP. All right, Johnny.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the defensive line. Let's talk about this defense. Robert Saleh's boys. Every time I watch them, I just get absolutely more and more excited because I keep seeing it's like someone pulled the hopes and dreams of 49ers fans before the season began and then put them out onto the field.
Yeah, they are a group that they were good week one, and I felt they were maybe even a little bit better week two. And I know the numbers don't necessarily back that up in the sense of just bulk rushing numbers. The Seahawks didn't run for as many yards as the Saints did. Alvin Kamara had 99 rushing yards, so they held him under 100. At first he had just gotten over 100, and then they got him for a tackle for loss on his last run, and he never ran again, and that pushed him under 100 yards. So they held Alvin Kamara under 100 yards. But I will say Alvin Kamara is still a really good running back in this league. He is a really good running back in this league and has a lot of juice left. If you look at this game, if it isn't for Alvin Kamara, the Saints they're probably running for like 2 yards a carry because Alvin Kamara had 67 yards after contact. He was driving his legs. He was moving piles. So when we look at this film, and I'm going to share this here, share the screen. We have to keep that in mind, that Alvin Kamara was absolutely so impressive in this game. And that's also speaks to how good the defensive line was that they hemmed him in. I mean, again, he was averaging 3.5 yards after contact per carry.
That is incredibly impressive, and it's a credit to him. Before we pop the film up, I saw this nugget from Nate Tice in his column for Yahoo that blew my mind. The 49ers rushing success rate allowed with Mykel Williams on the field is 25.8%. Their rushing success rate allowed when Mykel Williams is off the field is 66.7%. So for the guy that was brought in first and foremost to stop the run, even through 2 games, is having a massive effect on the thing that he was brought in to do. That is super encouraging.
100% encouraging. And really just speaks to that was why he was drafted. And I know there's been a lot of fans that have had pushback against this, as if rushing or stopping the run is not important in today's NFL anymore. And actually, if anything, it's probably more important than it's been in 10 years, because teams are, as we've seen, more too high shell defenses. And as you're seeing the teams that have been trying to go back to the run after you've had 10 years of analytics and drafting strategies to try and stop the pass, teams are starting to run the ball more. You're seeing the return of fullbacks in the league. You're seeing the return of heavy sets. So many teams are running condensed formations that they all borrowed it from Shanahan, who started running all these condensed sets. There you have all teams every week. You will watch an NFL team lineup in a condensed formation. They're going to run the ball, and you see these motions and things trying to open up gaps in the run lanes to run the ball. That run defenders now are becoming your premium defenders, because that, if you can't stop the run now, which every team is trying to do, go watch the Chiefs. They are trying to establish themselves as a running team because they don't have a lot of passing weapons. That defenders who can stop the run are coming at a premium, and that's what we're seeing here. So the other thing that I wanted to point out is that the flexibility of the personnel is, we are seeing somebody like Nick Bosa. I have him circled here because he's rushing off of the left guard. When did we see him rush over left guard last year? I remember it happening one time the entire year.
So he has rushed for over the middle of the offensive line 6 times already this season. He did it 11 times all of last season.
And I think most of those were actually some stunts. Of those 11s, he was lined up outside and then he rushed over the middle, and it was coming around on a stunt. You're actually seeing him line up, and so Robert Saleh talked about this. It's actually harder to find interior pass rushers than it is to find edge pass rushers. So here's what this defensive alignment shows. We used to see last season, Nick Bosa was number 1 in the NFL in double teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking that and people, I remember the argument last year. Well, Nick Bosa needs to produce anyways. Well, you also need to give a premier talent the flexibility to move. You need to put him in a position to succeed, not just ask him to be all world every single snap, every single play. Yes, he's getting paid $36 million or 34, whatever it is. But you also have to then put him in the most optimal position to succeed. And so now you can line him up over left guard, and you have Mykel Williams over the right, over the other guard. You have Bryce Huff on the end, and you have Yetur Gross-Matos on the other end. So just understand what this means for the Saints. If Nick Bosa is here and they come out and they have Alvin Kamara, and they're expecting Nick Bosa, who previously before this was lined up against Kelvin Banks Jr., you're going to assume that the 49ers are going to put Nick Bosa on your rookie. So you're going to bring Alvin Kamara over here, and you're going to have him help on Nick Bosa. But guess what? Now Bosa's not there. So now you've got a favorable matchup with Nick Bosa. And watch Nick Bosa against this right guard. It is an immediate win. And it forces an incomplete pass. So this is what you mean when you say, okay, now you are putting your premium blue chip players in a position to succeed. We didn't see that. Look at Kamara. He's looking to chip and then release. That is meant for Nick Bosa. That isn't meant for Bryce Huff. You game plan against that so that you are trying to help on Nick Bosa. And now you can slant Mykel Williams over in what's called the plugger role. So he's not pass rushing. He's meant to occupy the sliding center and then spy on the quarterback. And so you have one-on-ones with Yetur Gross-Matos and mainly Nick Bosa over right guard, and he wins. You make teams pay for trying to double team your ends. And so you have an immediate win, and you have a throw early, and it's into coverage, and it's an incomplete pass. And so that immediately you're seeing this defensive line, just if they do that, is a huge improvement over last year.
The combination of, hey, let's have good players and good coaching and put them in a position to succeed. Like, you're allowed to do both. And last year we only had one of those two things. And we're seeing how much different it can look this year when you do have both.
100%. And I know then just kind of transitioning to the next clip here, I know a lot of people have been asking about Alfred Collins, and there was already some of the bus stuff. I remember I did say I was not expecting him to come along as quickly as he has. This game was hugely encouraging for Alfred Collins. By far the best game he's had. This game I was looking at, I went, okay, I'm looking at early October. We're going to be saying Alfred Collins was a home run pick. He is coming along so much faster than I thought he was going to. So the Saints are running an inside zone here. So they're going to read this from the gap over between the center and the guard backside. So they're going to work this way. That's where they're trying to read it. Watch Alfred Collins here against the right guard. So this is first phenomenal pad level for a tall guy. He's a big, tall guy. He keeps his pad level low. He's going to engage. He's going to hook the guard under his arm and watch him disengage. And so you have an immediate win, arm over. He wins through the front side. So now you're able to get Jordan Elliott in. You have Alfred Collins in, and you have Nick Bosa. The left tackle's in a tough spot here. Does he leave Bosa and go get Fred Warner? And then he's leaving his tight end one-on-one with Bosa, crashing the edge down, and you have Jair Brown coming off the edge? Or do you continue to help on Nick Bosa and Fred Warner's coming in the gap untouched? And so he chooses to move on. This is another one of those. Alvin Kamara makes this run. I mean, he gets 2.5, 3 yards after contact, 4 yards after contact. But that's what I mean. Like, Alfred Kamara is still a really good running back, and he's still got a lot of juice. But when you look at Alfred Collins, this is A+. Look at his guard. These are the kinds of plays that we would circle Jake Brendel on last year and say Jake Brendel's just standing there watching his guy get tackled and watching his man make the play. Yeah, Alfred Collins just did that to the right guard.
And that is something at Texas that he really didn't do a ton, where he had to like disengage from people. That was sort of the transition that he was going to have to make, was that he was going to need to do that. So it's nice to see him do it in this instance. Now, hopefully we can get the running back down before he picks up those extra yards, but still it's progress, and that's what we want to see.
100%. And this isn't just Alfred Collins and Jordan Elliott on the D-line. Here you're going to have CJ West and Kalia Davis and Mykel Williams. And these guys do such a good job on this play of squeezing the gap. So this is another inside zone. I really had a hard time putting together this video because I ended up, by the time I clipped everything, I had like 20 clips. And I was like, that's too many. I mean, because there was just so many positive reps from the D-line. So we're an attacking one gap defense, right? So when we generally assign one gap, every player is going to be in a gap. And then we do a lot of slants and exchanges then to aggressively change so that you don't just let guys line up and go after your players. So, but what that means is that we don't often ask, especially on horizontal runs that go left and right, we don't ask guys just to swallow up double teams. We ask them to squeeze their gaps. So what the Saints are trying to do here is they're again trying to do this little inside zone. So the main read is going to be here on Kalia Davis. The right guard is going to try and reach block him, and they're going to try and get the center up on Fred Warner. So what Kalia Davis is taught is not to soak up necessarily, because it's a horizontal stretch, not to soak up a double team here, because that's not the intent of the block. What the intent of the block is to wall him off. I'll do this in better color so we can see things. The intent of the block is to wall him off. So once he sees this center move on to Fred Warner, he's got to squeeze down this gap, shrink the gap. That's what they want. Same thing with Mykel Williams on the other side. He's going to get a similar combo. And once the tackle moves off of Mykel Williams, he's got to squeeze the gap. So you're trying to reduce the edges of and accordion this play inside so that the offense can't spread you out horizontally. So it does work differently as things. So what you're going to see is again, attack your gap. You see that the center doesn't even give a combo. So what is Kalia Davis going to do? He's going to work this down to squeeze it. Same thing over here. You're going to see there's a combo. The tackle moves off quick. So what does Mykel Williams does? He works down to squeeze the edge. That's what these guys do. So they're trying to run this ball through here, but now you have Kalia Davis flashing in the hole. And so then he's going to try and work it over. And so what do you have? You have Mykel Williams condensing the other hole. So this is really, really nice heads up work against what the Saints are trying to do. And so a lot of times this may seem, well, Kalia Davis didn't keep Fred Warner clean on that. And this is kind of what Shanahan alluded to in his presser at the beginning of the week. He said, Fred was still playing pretty well last year. There was also an issue that the guys around him weren't playing really well. It was plays exactly like this. When Fred had guys getting up on him, you didn't have the other guys squeezing the gaps. And that was huge.
You don't want 54 to have to make up for everybody. Just do your job around him and he'll take care of his job phenomenally well. And that's a perfect example of it. And I don't think it's a surprise that we're seeing Nick Bosa play at the level that he's played at through 2 weeks. And we're seeing Fred Warner play at this level because there's better people around him and better coaching around them.
100%. And I mean, you're okay with Fred getting double teamed by 2 offensive linemen when you have 3 guys at the ball carrier. You're okay with that. But I just want to point this out. I love Fred Warner, the energy he brings. Watch Fred at the end of this play. This is like, just
jumps on the pile.
Just jumps on the pile. I mean, backflops on the pile. Like he just wants to be in on the tackle in every way he can. Now, I posted this clip on Twitter and it did get a bunch of views. And I play this back and forth a bunch of times because this is so fascinating to watch. We talk about Chris Kasurik as one of the best defensive line coaches in the league. And people will think it's just about you get these guys to try real hard and everything. He teaches the fundamentals of defensive line play as well as any defensive line coach in the league. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so I talked about how we're an attacking one gap defense, right? So you run every once in a while these line slants that will completely throw off the offensive line blocking schemes. They're going to expect one thing, expect to block a certain guy in a gap, and then you change everything. So we're doing a full line slant. We're bringing a pressure off the edge, and then we're slanting everybody over one gap. Now, that's not just as simple as, okay, you now shift over to your gap. There is specific footwork that they want so that everybody keeps their balance, that they execute an arm under to hook and disengage on the offensive lineman. And so when you talk about that, they want a step that's going to be 12 inches to their right. And they want then the right foot to step through and then the right arm to hook through. Watch the synchronous. I'm going to slow this down to 25% speed so we can watch the execution of this. Watch these 3 guys. Their footwork is identical. Their arm work is identical. That speaks to Chris Kasurik. His teaching of these guys in their footwork, in their execution. I mean, their body movements. This literally looks like a Madden repeat animation because it's that textbook. And what does it create is when you see this, it completely disrupts the Saints' blocking scheme. Look at these guys. They were expecting those guys to be where they were. They slant around and you get this complete disruption of the blocking assignments. And you have 3 defensive linemen in the backfield. Perfect execution of a call. That I want to praise the players all I can for this. That is Chris Kasurik. Like we need to understand how much of an impact he's having on this.
And I think too, sometimes, especially with defensive line play, we have a tendency to look at everybody in a vacuum, right? As if, well, every individual defensive lineman's job is to get past the offensive lineman and get into the backfield and make a play. And while that is a defensive lineman's job, they don't do it alone. They don't do it in a vacuum. It is a coordinated thing with everyone else on the defensive line. And like you said, sometimes in this case with Kasarik, this particular call involved them doing everything in unison together. And I don't think that I definitely didn't, before I started to get more into this, realize how, I guess, coordinated some of that stuff is along the defensive line.
Yeah, and it also speaks to how discoordinated they were last year. That we were calling these line slants and stuff. Sometimes it was personnel. Sometimes it was the coverage not being in tune with when the line slants were happening. I mean, when we say defensive coordinator, we're not just meaning he calls the plays and he's teaching every individual person what they do. He's making sure that the secondary coaches, what they're teaching and what they're having in the game plan is in line with what he's asking the defensive line coaches to do, and that what the defensive line coach is teaching their guys, that those two guys are married in what they're doing, and with the linebackers, that everybody is on the same page or coordinated. That's why we call them coordinators. But so often we just think of coordinator means play caller. Like that's what in our mind, because that's what we see on Sundays, and we don't see that part of it. But when we're talking about coordination, you are seeing a well coordinated, and I'm not meaning play calling, I'm meaning everything is tied together defense, and that is a huge difference. And so moving on, you're seeing this as well, and this is not just one or two players. Here you have Jordan Elliott, Alfred Collins. This is a phenomenal job by Alfred Collins. I mean, when you talk about this kid is starting to get his feet underneath him, and he's playing with power. They're running an inside zone here, so they're going to try and work this combo, and then they're going to work a combo. And again, same thing. This isn't quite a duo, but because they're trying to focus on horizontal movement. But watch this combo that's happening here. Again, against the right guard. They want to run this right through this middle hole. That's where this ball wants to go. It's going to read there, and it's supposed to read there and then backside. So first, you have Mykel Williams is crashing down the edge, so it's taking away that backside. Now you have Alfred Collins is taken on and throws the right guard off out of the hole. And so Alvin Kamara wants to run through here, but guess what? A giant man just appeared.
Collins appears.
Yeah, threw his right guard out of the way. So now he's going to then try and sift this outside, and this is going to be a tackle for loss from Bosa. But that's Alfred Collins. Like, that is Alfred Collins and Mykel Williams that are making this play by crashing the edge, by winning on the inside, and forcing the run outside. So, I mean, like, you're seeing these young guys, they are having an impact sometimes when we don't see it, that these are just strong plays. You have Jordan Elliott, Kalia Davis here, that these guys are holding down the point. And again, you're seeing the same sort of stuff. Kalia Davis is playing so well right now. He's going to get moved initially and then watch him work. Like, this is when we say keep working, keep fighting to squeeze that edge to come and fill that gap. There it is. Mykel Williams here. I want to give him more credit on this because he's going to go make the tackle. This is one of the worst kickout blocks you're going to see in your life. Okay. That ain't it, bro. That is not it. Does
he get a hand on him?
No, doesn't even get a hand on him. He gets confused as to who he's supposed to block. And he was supposed to kick out Mykel Williams and doesn't. But again, you have these guys holding down the point. And so that holds it up for Mykel Williams to go make the play. So that's another play that shows up on Mykel Williams' stat sheet, but is helped by other guys. And it's part of the thing here. You have a run. This is going to end up being a big cutback run, so they get some good yards here. But that's more to do with Upton Stout and the backside. They're running a fake screen out to the other side. And so this is partially a really good call by Kellen Moore. I think they want it to be a little bit tighter of a read on this backside, because this backside gets completely taken out by this action. And so Kamara is going to get plugged up front side and he's going to run it back and there's nobody there. I guess I'm saying that to point out Alfred Collins does a phenomenal job here. Great pad level. He's going to take on the left guard this time and watch him press and wall off. There's that length we talk about. that he has as a defensive tackle. So they want to run this front side. Here you have Mykel Williams standing up his man. You have Alfred Collins standing up his man. This is plugged up. If you have your backside pursuit, which is supposed to be there, but it got ran off, this is a big loss. Like, this is maybe a 1 yard play. This was one of their biggest runs of the day. It ends up being, which again, that's a different issue. But when we talk about Alfred Collins and what he's doing, this is when you say he flashes. That's a play he flashes. It may be a positive run for the Saints, but Alfred Collins flashed. And so that's what I wanted to point out on that one.
There is a reason that we saw all the rookies' snap counts increase from week 1 to week 2. They're getting more reps, they're getting more play time, and they're developing. A shocking thing, I know, for a lot of people. When you play guys, a lot of times they tend to get better. But again, this is what we were talking about. This is why you heard Kyle and Saleh say that this defense is going to be better at the end of the year than they are right now, because they're going to get those reps. They're going to get that experience. And I think by the end of the year, Vish said it on Monday. He said by the end of this year, we will be talking about the 49ers young core on defense up there with every other team in the league, including a team like the Rams. So that is obviously, maybe that's a little too hopeful. I don't know, but you're certainly not doing anything to dampen my hope now.
No, I don't think he's wrong, because it's just like, you look at, what did the Rams do? They went and got Jared Verse. They went and got Braden Fisk, a kid I was super high on coming out of the Senior Bowl. They rebuilt that defensive line with some real studs, and that's what they've done. It's a group of young studs on the defensive line, and you see how it helped. They have underwhelming linebackers. The Rams do. They just do. I'm not meaning that disparagingly. They've played well, but they are not a Fred Warner and a D Winters. And you see how good they are still a team that's hard to get some yards on. And it's because they have a great defensive line. Now we're talking about putting a great defensive line with these linebackers. My goodness. I mean, it's not hyperbole to say that the way these guys are playing, this is going to be a very, very good defense. And this is a play. You're going to see a number of these in this second video, because the Saints were having a hard time with that inside zone, right? Which is horizontal movement. So then they switched to these duo, and this is a play. So this is just shows my weird memory. I remember when you had Joe Staley on, and he was talking about Greg Roman. Greg Roman loved to run a play he called duo power no puller. That was according to Joe Staley on a show with you years ago. Why I remember that, I have no idea, but I remember he was talking about. So this is a zone blocking play with power man principles. That's why Greg Roman called it power no puller, is because you're getting 2 double team power blocks to move these defensive linemen vertically. They want to push these guys off the spot, drive them off, and then as your linebackers commit, whoever they're over there they're gonna peel off and pick them up. So to defend this is not the same as that inside zone where you're looking to defeat and squeeze the edges. What you're looking to do is you want to see these guys hunker and anchor and split these blocks. So you're not going to be moving horizontally now. You're moving vertically. So your linemen have to react to that. It's still the same idea, attacking one gap, but you're going to anchor and then split the double team because you want to hold down that gap. And we were so bad against these duo runs last year. I put it on Twitter last year after the Rams game. I think it was September 23rd last year. Yeah. I said, because I watched the Rams run duo at us 3 straight times in a row with the exact same formation, it was literally the exact same play call. Like if it was 15 on the wristband, Sean McVay called in 15 3 times in a row, and they got 7 yards, they got 6 yards, and they got 6 yards.
And I think they pointed it out on the broadcast too. It was like, this is the same play.
It was the exact same play, and it was a duo run. And I said after that, until our defensive tackles showed that they can soak up these double teams and defeat the duo blocks, teams are going to run this on us over and over and over again. And it turned out that was a prophecy, because every team almost after that ran duo on us 8 to 9 times a game.
Jeez.
Because they saw it on film and they said, these guys can't stop it, so we're going to run it. The only team that didn't was the Bears, and we saw how that game ended up. But but here you're going to see this. Look at how these guys sit and anchor, and then work to split the double teams. This is so much better than we had against this last year. Last year, these runs were just 8 yards every time. Every time. And again, this is part of Alvin Kamara is just a really tough running back that he gets the yards he does, but they anchor it, they split the double team, and they hold him to like a 2 or 3 yard run, and they tackle him backwards. And you see Fred flexing at the end of it. He's all excited. But this is so much better. You're keeping Dre or D Winters. I want to say Dre Greenlaw. You're keeping D Winters clean. You're able to then hunker down, and Fred Warner's able to attack. Like, those are the things that look so good. So remember that going forward, because we're going to see that again. This is another play here in the red zone. So they're trying to get another inside zone here. They're going to try and get a reach block here on Alfred Collins. They're going to take both tight ends, and they're going to try and double down on Mykel Williams. And just watch how these two young guys on that side anchored their side. So first, Alfred Collins, he's going to see what's going on, shed the left tackle, and move over. Mykel Williams anchors against the double team. I want to see Renardo Green attack this better. I want to see him attack it in harder. This should be a tackle for no gain. Marquis Siegel comes up and he gets a little hesitant up in here as he sees everything kind of slow down, and he worries about the bounce. But this is clogging it up. This is another one of those plays where Kamara gets 2 yards after contact, and it's a 3 yard run. But those guys plugged up the front side, and they held it down. Like, that's why you go get these big horses. I'll pause for just a second, take a breath. If you have anything to put in. I get all jacked up, like, going through some of this tape.
No, the interesting thing to me is we're facing Arizona this week. Arizona has run over the 49ers at times, specifically James Conner, who literally haunts my nightmares. So I will be really interested to see this week how they hold up, because the Cardinals traditionally have found success on the ground against the 49ers. So, Kamara is obviously great, as you have pointed out. We got another test this week, and so we'll see where we are in a lot of different ways against Arizona, but specifically on the ground.
Yeah. This will be a real big test, like you said, against James Conner, and a team that's going to try and establish the run really, really well. So now we're going to see the Saints are trying to run a little counter zone here. So they're trying to wall down, get everybody moving to our right. And then they're going to try and read off of Mykel Williams. So if he goes inside, they're going to run it outside. If he comes outside, they're going to run it inside. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to put Mykel Williams in a little bit of a blender here. You can see this motion to help with that. And so here comes that counter turn by the quarterback. You have the counter footwork by Alvin Kamara. So they go this way. They're trying to get the flow and then read off of this block. And here, Mykel Williams does such a great job. He works inside. He sees he's going to eyes to the running back, and then watch how he plays this long arm on the tight end. That's where that length from a defensive end, you go and get a guy with an 88-inch wingspan is what it was, something like that, like 90th percentile wingspan. He's going to press long arm the tight end. So Kamara is going to try and bounce this out, and watch him just basically treat the tight end like a blocking pad. And he just goes back across and makes the tackle. That is such a phenomenal play by Mykel Williams. I don't care if people say, well, it's a tight end. It is a tight end in the National Football League who is expected to, at worst, die a slow death. And this man dies it's over immediately. Like, this is such a good play by Mykel Williams.
If you block Mykel Williams with the tight end, you lose. Like, you lose. The only tight end that might be able to block him is on his team, and that's George Kittle. And the impressive thing to me about that play too is not only does he move the tight end with one arm, but it's not like Kamara runs into him. He then, once he disengages with the tight end, has to pursue Kamara and tackle him, and he chases him down. I was like blown away when I saw that play.
Yeah, 100. Like, it is so impressive. Okay, so now we're back to another duo run. So this is, again, I just want to come back to these because we struggled against this so hard. That's why I spent a few minutes setting that up. We struggled against this so hard last year. Look at these guys anchor and keep your linebackers clean. Last year, they were already up on these guys. Already, by this point, in the first few steps. They're going to anchor and then split. This is Alfred Collins. This is Kalia Davis. He's going to split the double team. That is what defending duo looks like. And again, Kamara gets a yard after contact. That's the only reason this wasn't a 1 yard run. Like this is so much better than it was last year. And so, yeah, so that's a lot of defense in the run game. And now we're going to get back to what I started out at the very beginning with, of when your offensive or defensive coordinator is doing things to help your blue chip players. Okay. So first off, we're going to see, this is that double mug front. So your double mug, we mean that Fred Warner and D Winters are mugging the A gaps, meaning they're lined up on the line over the A gaps, which is either side of the center. And then you're going to have Marquise Siegel come down. So watch the center on this play. This is the center McCoy. Watch him point out every single assignment. So he's going to point out over there. He's going to say alert Marquise Siegel as a potential rushing threat. So he's pointing out Marquise Siegel. And then he's going to point to Yetur Gross-Matos. Who's got who? And then he's going to point out D Winters. And he's saying, this is your man. He's handing out assignments here at the pre-snap. And then he's going to turn, and you're going to see him turn to Kamara right here. And he's going to say, you got Fred Warner. So Kamara's going to come up in Fred Warner. So the way they've assigned this out, he says, I have D Winters. Right guard's got Gross-Matos. Right tackle has Bryce Huff. And then they're going to motion this tight end out. And if Siegel stays in, then the quarterback's going to know he's hot. That's what they're going to do. That's the guy that they're not blocking, is what they've handed out here. So what does this mean? This means that Mykel Williams and Nick Bosa are one-on-one, 1v1 versus Kelvin Banks Jr., a rookie, who gave up 5 pressures to Nick Bosa and a sack to Nick Bosa in this game. And Mykel Williams against the left guard, 1v1. What did I talk about earlier? That you used to see Nick Bosa was the most doubled defensive end in the league, defensive player in the league. Now you're seeing, by alignment and how we do this, you have now set up that he is a one-on-one pass rushing rep. That is what you need, because now these guys say, okay, I can bull rush and I can bull rush. I don't have to worry about a chip. I don't have to worry about a guy, if I try and do a bull rush, is going to hit me from the side and knock me out. I can bull rush, and you absolutely collapse the pocket on Spencer Rattler. That is a defensive coordinator and defensive line coach, the marriage of these looks together to manufacture quality matchups with your linemen, and now you see it pay off.
And that
is exciting.
Not just pay off, because that is a critical part in the game. That's 3rd and 6 at the New Orleans 15 with 3 minutes and 50 seconds to go in the game. This was, at the time, I thought, the play that won the game. I thought it was going to ice the game. The Niners were going to get the ball back and just kill the rest of the clock. So in the most important possession, on the most important play, Robert Saleh dictates the protection to the offensive line to get his 2 best pass rushers or 2 best defensive linemen in position to one-on-ones to make a play, and they did. That is a perfect marriage of coaching and talent on the field, and it should make you very happy.
Yeah, 100%. Like it is so, like, I'm having more fun watching the defensive film than anything. And I did not say that last year. Last year, I was like, there's some fun things to watch on the offensive side. Defensive side sucks to watch, like, especially fourth quarter. And now you're seeing, oh my gosh, this looks so much better. Okay, so we're going to rewind the story back. We did a show right after Bryce Huff we traded for Bryce Huff, right?
Yep.
And we looked at his film. And one of the things I talked about several times in that show was what Bryce Huff brought. And it was, you now have somebody who can win at the 7-yard depth. I don't know if you remember that conversation, Rob, but, and hopefully people in here, just as a reminder, I was talking about that. So that when you have pass rushing plans, you want blue chip guys that can win at 7 yards, you want it 5 yards, and you want it 3 yards. That's what your pass rush plan is for, is to have a win at every level. That way the quarterback does not have a place to go inside the pocket. He can't drift back, he can't stay where he is, and he can't go forward. That is your goal. That's what you're trying to do. And what Bryce Huff was doing is, it was somebody who could win at the 7-yard landmark. That's why you go get a speed rusher. We've talked about it. Like, we needed a speed rusher complement to Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is the premier 5-yard depth, which is the standard kind of quarterback drop depth. winner in the NFL. Like it's him and Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Like it's those three guys. Well, you need somebody who can win at 7 yards, or else you're asking Nick Bosa to win both at 5 and 7. And you need somebody who can win at 3. Well, we're going to see that in action right here. Watch these guys as you now have winners at every level. You're going to see Bryce Huff. He works and he's going to go win at 7 yards. You're going to see Nick Bosa bull rush at 5 yards. You're going to see Mykel Williams beat the right guard in at 3 yards. This is what I was talking about. You have over the top, you have in the middle, and you have up the middle. And that gives Spencer Rattler nowhere to go with the ball, and he has to dump the pass off. And this ends up being a pass for like 2 yards. And this is one of the last plays of the game. So you're seeing this in action of what that looks like when you're setting it up, that I have winners at every level of the pocket. I can win at 7, I can win at 5, and I can win at 3. That's what this looks like. And that's what's so exciting about this. I love what this defense brings to be able to do to quarterbacks.
And I feel like it's so rare that, like they got Bryce Huff and we were all like, oh my God, speed rusher, this is going to be so great. They'll be able to bring him off the edge. And like, it's working exactly the way that we thought it was going to work when they brought him in. Sometimes, you bring in a player and you envision a role and it just doesn't materialize. It's only through 2 games. So I don't want to, act like it's the greatest acquisition of all time, but it's encouraging to see it work. It's encouraging to see it work right away. I want to see if I can bring this up really quick. This is time to pressure. The leaderboard. Number 1 on the leaderboard is Bryce Huff at 2 seconds. Number 2 on the leaderboard is Nick Bosa at 2.2 seconds. Yes, please. Give me more of that, please. And by the way, Myles Garrett is way down. Trey Hendrickson is way down on the list. Micah Parsons is way down on this list. Bryce Huff 1, Nick Bosa 2. Pump it into my veins.
100%. Because now you have these guys are in favorable like the reason that looks so good, these guys are playing in matchups that allow them to do what they do best. Nick Bosa is not being asked to be a speed rusher every time. He's not a speed rusher. Like he has a great 10-yard split, but he's not a speed rusher. This, what you're going to see from Bryce Huff, is a speed rusher. Watch this in full speed. This is boom, shot out of a cannon. And let me also say, I gotta slow this down to 25% so we can actually see this actually happen, because the crowd noise in New Orleans for the home team. Give a shout out to the faithful, because I want to show this. Look at this. Right tackle did not hear the snap because he's watching and reacting to the end, not to the count by the quarterback. So you are seeing the right guard is out of his set. The left tackle is out of his set. The left guard is out of his set. And the right tackle is still sitting there as Bryce Huff is shooting off the ball. Big shout out to the faithful for being a part of this, because he is so much later out of his set than everybody else. And then 2, when you have Fred Warner lined up, you're going to force a line slant to that side. So they're doing a 3-2. So they're going to split 3 on this side, and then they're going to run 2 on this side. So these guys are setting close, tight, expecting a stunt here. So you're going to set tight in case you have a stunt on this way, which we're very infamous for doing in these situations, because the tackle is going to set tighter so that he protects his side from Gross Matos, from blowing him up and busting him out of there for Bryce Huff to come inside. Well, now you have somebody who can make teams pay for short sets. And the proof of that is watch his first step, how short it is. I mean, it's a jab step. Mm-hmm. Kelvin Banks is a deep set. That these guys are setting much tighter than these guys are because they're expecting these games. And so you see that, and now you make them pay, and the bend around the edge. I know we all wanted the kid from Marshall, Mike Green, in the bend that he had. He had the off fields. We couldn't take him. So here we get a guy in Bryce Huff who has this, and this is one of the fastest sacks ever in the history of the NFL to seal the game. And then a little honor, or what's it?
Honorable mention?
Honorable mention to Nick Bosa for kicking this football. Boop! That was Nick Bosa's foot. Kicked it out of there.
The bend from Bryce Huff, he's bending the edge before Spencer Rattler hits the top of his drop. He's already around the corner. That's insane how fast that is. No wonder this play didn't work for New Orleans. That is unbelievably You're not even at the top of your drop, and the defensive lineman is closing in. Incredible play in the biggest spot on 4th down when the team needed it. Just a masterpiece.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to do triangles. I'm going to do circles. I'm going to, a square around this, because that is elite bend. We go into the draft every year looking for kids that can have bend like this. Well, guess what? The Eagles gave you a guy. So there you go. They're paying part of his salary this year.
A freaking men. It was just music. I don't want to say music to my ear. It was music to my ears, Johnny, because my Sunday ticket went out before that play. I was watching on YouTube and the picture went out. All I could hear was the audio right before that play. And I'm howling in my house like, no. So I just had to listen to, I think it was Kevin Kugler, call the play. So I was like kind of robbed of that moment, but I saw it on Twitter afterwards. It was incredible. Obviously sealed the win, and the Niners go to 2-0. We got a super chat here from Chris Waddell, who says, my only question is, can we stop James Conner? For some reason, he always runs over us with a million broken tackles. He has 2 good games all year. Do you think we will see the play along the defensive line at this level against a tougher opponent in the Cardinals?
So one thing to remember is I think the Cardinals offensive line is pretty banged up. Last I looked, and I'm going to double check that. Because we don't want to mislead people on this matchup, and people say, well, Johnny said that they were banged up and this was going to be something. We don't want that.
I'm looking at the practice report. Kelvin Beachum was resting, so he didn't participate. Will Hernandez was limited with a knee. Paris Johnson, the tackle, was limited with a knee as well. So those are the only 3 offensive linemen on the Cardinals injury report right now.
So they have 2 players who were limited in practice, and then Kelvin Beachum missed, but it was most likely a vet day, is what it looked like. But those 2 guys, Will Hernandez and Paris Johnson, I do believe that they've been working through that. Their knees are not 100%, so their offensive line's not 100%, and their offensive line hasn't been amazing throughout the beginning of the year. As far as what they've been able to allow guys to do. James Conner, is averaging 60 yards a game. Like, so this it's not like he's been blowing the top off, blowing the doors out on this. In this, you look at the Cardinals offense, their overall rushing efficiency is 13th in the league. So it's middle of the pack, but a lot of that has to do with Kyler scrambles. It's not necessarily just James Conner's ability. So when I look at it, I go, okay, why has James Conner in the past done that? Well, a lot of it has been a lot of this kind of read option things where you're getting him matched up in the hole on a linebacker, where you're holding the defensive end to play the keep. And so he's going to be coming down, and you have a linebacker or a safety trying to fill it. He's a big load. And so that's an advantageous lineup there. I have a feeling that Upton Stout and his ability and his abilities as an athlete is going to change the way that we have gone about this for the last couple of years. That I think we're going to be using him as the person on Kyler Murray. And I think then outside of nickel, D Winters is the other one. You now have 2 players there that are really good athletes in space with a lot of speed that you aren't afraid to put on Kyler Murray. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take Mykel Williams, you're going to take Sam O, you're going to take Bryce Huff even, and you're going to crash down that end, and you're going to say James Conner's not going to be the guy, and Kyler has to beat D Winters, and he's got to beat Upton Stout in space. I think that's, if I was Robert Saleh, that would be the approach I would walk in with. And so I say I'm not as much worried about James Conner in this game. It's going to come down to, can Kyler make an explosive against one of those guys? That's going to be the matchup, I think, to really look for.
So you're saying we won't see Kyler Murray celebrating 45 yards away from the end zone like he did?
Good Lord, I hope not. Good Lord, I hope not.
Man, that was just the season in a nutshell in a lot of ways. But it's going to be a fun matchup. I can't wait to watch it. Nice to see the 49ers at home for the first time all year. They'll be in the white 94 throwbacks, which I do enjoy.
Love those. I love
Those are clean. So that's going to be fun to see. And look, we don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback, but there's a very real chance. This is a sneaky big game, Johnny, because if the Niners win, they're 3-0 with 2 wins in the division. If the Cardinals win, they're 3-0 with a win in the division. They play Seattle next week, but don't forget the Rams are playing the Eagles this week. So if the Cardinals win, it's possible they could be the only undefeated team in the NFC West. So this for week 3, there's actually kind of a lot on the line.
Yeah. And you have to weather that early season Cardinals. I mean, Cardinals in the first 10 weeks of the season every year are a top 5 team.
Right. And then they fade.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the cliff was real with them, and it's been real since. Don't know what exactly, and it seems to have been that way even before Cliff Kingsbury. Like they would start out hot every year and then just fade. I don't know if it's something about being in Arizona and the change in the climate. I don't know. It's something there. They tend to fade, but you do have to watch out for if you can beat the Cardinals early in the season, you can't just write it off and say, well, it's the Cardinals. No, like beating the Cardinals in the first month of the year is a big deal because they're always hot.
I agree. And Kyle Shanahan has not historically had success against the Cardinals in his career, regardless of the coach, whether it was Bruce Arians, whether it was Cliff Kingsbury, whether it was Steve Wilkes, who got in there for one of them. In his career, Kyle Shanahan is 7-9 in 16 games against the Cardinals. So this is a team that has given the 49ers problems in the past. We'll see if it does on Sunday. But if it does, we'll know why. And if you don't, you can tune in on Thursdays and Johnny will break it down for you. So you will know why. So thank
100%.
you, Johnny. Appreciate it. Like this channel, like this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Johnny's channel on YouTube. Just search Johnny Dale Football Academy. There's even more film breakdown for you. If that's what you love, Johnny will give you all you could possibly want. So thank you. Thank you everybody for watching. And Johnny, we'll talk next week.